India has been looking to become the world's manufacturing hub for at least a decade. Despite being the fastest growing economy with all previous governments, India was not able to attract investments in manufacturing due to ineffective policies and approach. However, India has the physical and digital infrastructure to make realistic bid to be an important player in global supply chains with production linked incentive schemes as the platform to plug into global manufacturing. To discuss this in detail, we have a panel of esteemed experts with us. Mr. Hiren, whole-time director, chief executive officer, and chief executive officer. He holds around 2 decades of experience in this field. Mr. Raamdeo Agrawal, chairman of Motilal Oswal Financial Services Limited. Mr. Jiten Doshi, co-founder and CIO of Enam Asset Management Company Limited. He also holds 2 decades of experience, and as well. And then we have Mr. Vikas Agarwal, CEO and AIF at PMS Experts India. Now I'll be handing over the mic to Mr. Vikas Agarwal, who will be moderating the session. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Pragya. While the other panelists they are joining in, I'll just take a minute quickly to give you some background about this. So, basically, we thought we'll reach out to the most respected panelist, Mr. Hiren, where Mr. Raamdeo Agrawal, Mr. Jiten Doshi. They've been investing in equity markets for over 2.5 decades, in fact, more than that, Mr. Raamdeo Agrawal has started investing since 1986. So, more than good 35-40 years, and I've learned a lot personally from Mr. Raamdeo Agrawal. So while they are just joining in, we'll talk about the topic first. So basically the topic is that, well, everybody talked about India to become third largest economy. We see Germany and Japan, they're degrowing, whereas India is growing. It's like the two trains coming on the opposite side crossing each other. Obviously they tend to move faster, and so not that we are doing very good, but there are other economies which are not able to do well. So maybe it's a blessings in disguise for us, and that's the reason we are moving towards that. So we'll not take the complete 100% credit for that, but yes, India as an economy is doing very well. But on the other hand, you see manufacturing is one aspect which is very very important. So if you look at the GDP component, so a lot of thing comes from manufacturing, and we saw manufacturing evolving very well during 60s, 70s, 80s time, and post 2000 we saw some amount of degrowth. So today we'll read their mind, understand more how it is shaping up, what it requires India to be in terms of manufacturing, so that we can become $5 trillion economies 5 years down the line. So we'll wait for them to join in and then start again. So let's hold for a minute or two. In the
Yeah,
meantime,
yes.
can you AV, our AV, the one that we are running in, maybe with the music, yeah.
Just
Just wait for a second, Pragya, 1 second.
so I'll be introducing everyone again, just so that we are all on the right page. Just give me a moment.
Yeah, Pragya, you can start, and the other panelists that are just joining in.
Okay. So once again, now that we have, as we all are aware, that we were discussing about shifting trends and emerging mindsets, and now that we have a deeper understanding upon that topic, we'll now be taking up a very informative topic as well. That is, can India be a manufacturing hub or is it just a pipe dream? So India has been looking to become the world's manufacturing hub for at least a decade. And despite the fastest growing economy with all previous governments, India was not able to attract investments in manufacturing due to ineffective policies and approaches. However, India has had the physical and the digital infrastructure to make a realistic bid to be an important player in the global supply chains with production linked incentive schemes as the platform to plug into global manufacturing. So, to discuss this in detail, we have a panel of esteemed experts with us. Mr. Hiran Ved, full-time director, chief executive officer, chief investment officer at Alchemy Capital Management. Mr. Raamdeo Agrawal, chairman of Motilal Oswal Financial Service Limited. Mr. Jiten Doshi, co-founder and chief investment officer of Enam Asset Management Company Private Limited. And I would also like to point out that all, as well as Mr. Vikas Agarwal, he is the CEO of AIF and PMS Experts India. And I would also like to point out that Mr. Hiran Ved, Ramdeo Agarwal sir, and Jiten Doshi sir all have almost about 20 years plus experience in this industry. And now I'll be handing over the mic to Mr. Vikas Agarwal, who will be moderating this session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Pragya. Hello, Ramdeo ji. Namaste. Hello, Hiren ji and Jiten ji. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Ramdeo ji, मुझे मेरी आवाज आ रही है आपको?
एकदम क्लियर.
Okay, great, great.
मेरी आवाज सुनाई
Yes,
पड़ रही है?
yes, sir. Hiren sir, can you speak a bit? Anything?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Jiten ji?
Perfect.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, very much, very much. So,
Thank you.
thank you so much. आपने अपना कीमती समय निकाला, and you agreed to speak to all our investors. I remember अभी just now प्रज्ञा was mentioning कि सबका 20 साल का experience है. मैंने कहा 20 साल नहीं, जब मैं पैदा नहीं हुआ था. So तब से Ramdeo ji has been investing in equity markets. So Ramdeo ji, I think I remember I had a chance to work with him. We started investing from 1981 times, and 1986 he founded this company, Motilal Oswal. So this is the most respected panel that I'm going to speak and read their mind. So thank you so much once again for joining in. Thank you, Jiten ji. Thank you, Hiren ji, for taking the time out from your busy schedule and agreed to speak to all our investors. I also take this opportunity to thank our platform, media partner ET Markets. Without their support, we would have not reached out to so many people. So there are 2,600 people who are watching us now online, and eager and keen to hear your thoughts on the subject. तो आज का जो सब्जेक्ट लिया है हम लोगों ने, बेसिकली we've chosen this topic as like manufacturing. How can India be ever manufacturing hub? I mean, there was a time post independence we saw manufacturing used to contribute the maximum to our GDP, and then we saw that service industry picked up, the other component agriculture picked up. So the first thing is we want to talk about the importance of manufacturing. I want to start the conversation. So one of you might have to close the Google link that you've opened up while entering this room. You can turn it off and you can come out of it. You can cross the same. तो फिर आपको disturbance नहीं आएगा सर. So my first question to Jiten ji, I want to start with you first. That what is the importance of manufacturing in India? Like when you look at the GDP component, what is the current ratio? What it used to be when you began your career, and how it is going to be going ahead?
Sure. Thank you so much, Vikas ji, and a very good evening to all our audience and my fellow panelists. I think one can never underscore the importance of manufacturing in any economy. It's a very important component, as it not only means job creation, self-sufficiency, absorption of technology, but it also is basically nothing but making your country very proud of what sort of technology that you can innovate, because you require that to be constantly innovating in manufacturing. Over the last few years, I think we have heavily declined, and I think the presence of China in the global economy has actually been very important, and they've taken the center stage for all sorts of manufacturing. While it all started with probably low value added items, it's all gone to high tech now. So I think you cannot ignore the dominance and importance of manufacturing. Today I see that manufacturing is very critical, and I think our government has realized that. And over the last couple of years, the government has actually created an environment where we see all the investments coming back into the country. So actually, our manufacturing revolution should have started many years ago. But unfortunately, between 2006 to 2012, a lot of capital went out externally, which should have been invested in India. And we saw a lot of entrepreneurs not having great confidence in what was happening in the country, and that's why you saw mega acquisitions happening outside instead of that manufacturing revolution happening in India. To my mind, I think government has created a very good level playing field now. It's a very conducive environment. If you see now, also there has been a huge turmoil globally, many disruptions, which has actually led to global investors looking at India. Well, if everything was okay, nobody would want to disrupt what was going on very well. But over the last few years, there was a godsend opportunity. People have relooked at what their manufacturing supply chain should look like. And that's, I think, a great opportunity that came in for India. So I think not only have we opened up our doors to foreign capital through PLI, we are also encouraging local manufacturing. And we see this today, which is at about 17-18% of our GDP, going up to 25% in the next maybe 7 or 8 years. But the important part, Vikas, is that when you look back, we missed the revolution for low cost manufacturing and low value add. But today, what is very important is we have leapfrogged many revolutions. And when you look at what the Tatas are trying to do, manufacturing of aircraft, manufacturing of mobile phones, we are trying to have our own semiconductor unit in India. I think we are now having arrived in the global scene, talking of really high value manufacturing, high tech manufacturing, which I think is going to create a lot of jobs, and not only that, bring a huge credibility about India's capability in the developed markets. So I think this is our time under the sun. Government has made a very conducive environment. Tax rates for the last 5 years are unchanged. We have given a right signal to entrepreneurs that if you come, commit capital, the government is welcoming that, embracing that with open arms. And we see that large multinational corporations have actually started, having a great belief in where India is, where India's macroeconomic situation is, and that has led them to start looking at India. In fact, 5 years ago, no one was even prepared to look at India. So I think we have got now the right attention of all the big boys. We see that investment will definitely come into India. It will take some time, but we are on the radar, both in terms of a outsourcing destination for whatever the requirements are globally, and also offering a very large domestic market opportunity now that India is the fifth largest economy in the world. Also, it's very difficult for any large corporation to actually avoid or ignore what India is doing. So I think in every manner we are seeing very positive signs, and we believe that this ability for India to scale up, the time has come now. And we are very, very confident that over the next 7, 8, 9, 10 years, we'll become a very formidable force across at least a few industries where we are globally competitive. But surely, India is headed in a direction where manufacturing will, as a percentage of our GDP, will keep going up year after year. So I'm very, very confident that there was no conducive environment in the past, which has changed. Tax rates are favorable. Government is also very open about things. And I think people are looking at alternates, and we offer a dual opportunity, one of a very strong outsourcing possibility and a big, huge domestic market, which makes it very feasible for large multinationals to look at India. So I think it's a great opportunity for them.
All right, great. I think that clearly indicates that India is going in the right direction, as you rightly mentioned, and all things are going in our favor. I'll come to you, Jiten ji. Before that, let me go to Raamdeo Agrawal ji. Raamdeo ji, today's topic is basically the golden decade for India. And हमने ये दिया है कि इंडिया जो है पहले सोने की चिड़िया कहलाता था, और उसके बाद में ब्रिटिश राज आया and lot of things went away, and then again India started becoming $1 trillion economy. We took 50 years, 60 years to become $1 trillion economy in 2007. उसके बाद में हम वहाँ से ऐड कर रहे हैं. So मेरा क्वेश्चन आपसे ये है सर कि पहले के जीडीपी में if you look at like the manufacturing, the component contribution to GDP of the manufacturing was very high. तो धीरे धीरे वो सर्विस में बढ़ता चला गया. Do you see it is bouncing back, coming back, or how India will play an important role in the global supply chain system? Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Vikas. I think, see, first thing is that government is determined to make it happen. And as Jitu said, atmosphere is conducive. India has huge capability to make it happen. And more importantly, Babus are committed to making it happen. You know, so यहाँ पर बिना सरकार के कुछ होता नहीं, बहुत बड़ी चीज है ये. Because see, one of the things I was talking to one very large conglomerate, manufacturing conglomerate. So I asked him, you have worked in Thailand, Indonesia, all over, and you have come here, you have seen the environment. What is really missing here? I mean, why manufacturing is not taking off? Like services, current year, services exports have grown at 30% current year. But manufacturing is struggling in the sense that maybe 5-6 years, 5-6%, 7%. So why manufacturing is not exploding? So he said it's a mindset issue. So what is the mindset? See, this the first sign of, if you see the biggest manufacturing exports started happening from Korea, Japan, all these countries. So they were very small markets. The domestic market was very small. So they always set up the capacities and businesses only for exports. Always they did it for exports. So there was a mindset that we will export, and hence everything, even government was aligned to making it happen for the exports. They will have the port, they will have the infrastructure, they will have the clearances, everything. Here, most of the Indian entrepreneurs and manufacturers, they have a huge domestic market. Till 91, everything was short supplied. Next 20 years, at least we took care of the lot of domestic demand. So they never set it up as a only for export, dedicated export unit. They always looked at, okay, we will put up 80%, 90%. Broadly, we'll make it for India, and on top of it, surplus will offload in the global market. You look at our steel industry, where we are very, very competitive. I mean, everybody does at the margin export to the world. Otherwise, nobody can match India in terms of steel competitiveness. We have the iron ore, we have the coal, we have the low cost labor, we have the technology. Everything is there. What is there in not doing 100 million tons? I mean, you damn thing, you produce 100 million tons, it might sell for $5 plus or $5 minus. You will be able to do it. But we are not able to do it because the mindset is always to cater to the domestic market. Jitne bhi hai, JSW hai, Tatas hai, sab ke sab, they are all very successful. They know everything. What is there that JSW or Tisco cannot do? The issue is that their mindset is only incremental production will be exported. Now, when they are not able to, when there is not adequate demand in India, or when they see prices higher in the global market, then only they resort to exporting. So basically, the mindset is not to not to build capacity for global requirement. Whereas in services like Infosys, TCS, they never looked at India. In fact, they are so, I would not say incompetent, but they don't have mindset to cater to India. That's why the 95% of exports are all global. And you go to their office, you go to visit the campus, they're completely geared up for receiving foreign guests, how they pitch to them. So the real issue is the mindset of Indian entrepreneur. And actually the real spoiler is the domestic market. And then earlier even government's mindset was also very incremental. Now I see with the, what is this, the scheme which they have come out with, production link, PLI. So that shows the government's commitment and mindset. And so let's see whether global capacities they come up, whether the entrepreneurs here, say whether it is in chemical, whether in steel. As I said, steel is the simplest possible. It's a global commodity, global price, and global. We have the global competitive edge in terms of lowest cost production, and we get the enough quality also. But why can't we produce 100 million tons of steel for the world? I mean, that is a basic question to ask. So I think the mindset till it changes of the entrepreneur. Government has changed. Entrepreneurs also selectively they'll start looking at the opportunities. And even in China, to get the all the hurdles of domestic markets, what they did was they set up all these SEZs. All the over the coast, they set up the SEZ where the domestic market never come on the way to. I mean that it was a parallel foreign market types. So there was no laws of the domestic market were applicable there. They made them absolutely free. And I don't know enough about it, but they said he was saying that that's how even China took off. So I think government is doing their bit of it, and nothing happens overnight. You have to have patience, and they'll keep correcting as the more suggestions keep coming. But they seem to be committed because this is the youngest country. So many people are coming into the job market, and services cannot absorb all these guys. And particularly low cost young labor available, you can make all the low cost manufacturing or low value added manufacturing in India. Textile. I mean, we have all the fibers in the world here, and we have all the machine. Why can't, and we have the designing capability. Why can't we be textile exporter of the world? But we are very small. I mean, Bangladesh has taken the lead because Bangladesh has the mindset because their own consumption is very small. They are exporting to the whole world. So everything is geared up for. In fact, Indian manufacturers are getting manufactured from all of this. So so we have to learn from this thing. I mean, I found this to be very, very sensible in what he was saying. So I think the lure of the local markets and incrementalism, these are two different things. So I think government probably has to find their own Indian way. Now we are digital, we are very forward looking. Government is committed. So what will be their way to cut the clutter and create enterprises which will cater broadly first to the global markets and then incrementally to India. You have to just reverse the pie, and when that happens, then you see the resurgence of manufacturing in India. Otherwise, currently, if you are going to the port, again you have the hassle. I mean, you import any other stuff from outside. I mean, clearing Indian customs and getting the stuff into your home is so tough. I mean, the guys they slog there. So clearly, there are a lot of issues because manufacturing is very low value added, and a lot of physicality is there. So if there is one place where the pain point is there, entrepreneurs margins are very thin. They will find it very tough to really compete with the likes of China, because services. What happens is you get Indian cost, American value. You produce for $10, you sell it for $25-$30. Here it is not the case. In Indian, even with the new digital what you call manufacturing, your Indian cost is $10, but you have to compete with China for the price. So maybe you sell it for $11 or $12. No more game of $25-$30. So you have to be extremely efficient, as efficient as China in every aspect of it, and then you make your space in the global market. So my sense is that we need that mindset change, and government has to get into each and every. I mean, I'm saying that why can't we do the steel 100 million tons? Let's focus on that. Why can't we produce 100 million tons of wheat and dump in the global markets? So I think we have to go methodically like that. But I think government works in a very different way. We can talk like this, but government has so many people coordinating with each other. It's not that easy to make a plea like this and make it happen. So I think, but best thing is that Babus are now driven. They want to make it happen, and let's see what else. They will find their own way of doing it, but they will do it. So I'm
Right.
very hopeful on that.
Great, sir. Great. So you think that it is likely to shape up well. Now I'm going to Hiren Ved. So Hiren, you started up your career in 90s and you keep a track on most of the global economies as well. When you were setting up your Alchemy asset management business, you saw particularly in India service industry picking up, whereas manufacturing is going to be at all-time low. On the other hand, you saw China shaping up big time on the manufacturing side. So what's your views on that? Because 25 years down the line, we are coming back to the situation where manufacturing is going to play an important role. So over to you.
Thanks, Vikas. You know, I think when I started, actually, manufacturing was doing quite well. You had the big companies in the index, in the Sensex, the cement manufacturers, the textile manufacturers, the chemical manufacturers, right? And to be fair, we had a lost decade of manufacturing post the global financial crisis, from 2010, 11, right in the run up to COVID. And if you look at whether manufacturing share in GDP, or I was just looking at what is the weight of manufacturing companies in the Nifty, it's just hardly 11%, right? Services, which includes banking, IT services, is now 40-50% of the index. That tells you where the growth has been in the last few years. We really had a lost decade of manufacturing. But I think there is now hope. I don't want to repeat what two of my esteemed colleagues have already mentioned, but and I'm going to take a little bit of a devil's advocate, not because I'm not bullish on manufacturing, but I think that what I see is what has hobbled manufacturing in India is land, labor, and local bureaucracy, right? I think it has been, when I talk to industrialists, what happened when Tata Motors wanted to set up a plant in West Bengal, right? I mean, land is very, very important component when you want to start manufacturing. And unfortunately, in India, land is a big political issue. It can become a political issue, right? And I think, therefore, one of the things that India needs to do, and to some extent it has already started doing, what Raamdeo ji mentioned, what China did, is to have dedicated industrial parks where the government takes the responsibility of acquiring the land, creating a plug and play infrastructure, and then leasing it out to large industrial houses or whoever wants to come and manufacture, right? So you have to have the enabling environment for that. Labor. I think we have enough labor in this country, but we need to skill them, right? See, one of the problems of manufacturing in India, if you see, was that nowhere in the world do cement companies also are power companies. Nowhere in the world they had captive power. India is the unique country where every cement company or anybody who was serious in manufacturing, whether aluminium or steel or whatever, had to have captive power plants because the grid could not supply you competitive, uninterrupted 24 by 7 power. But that's changing now, right? But Indians were very good, right? Indian manufacturers solved that problem by setting up captive power plants and said, ठीक है, अगर सरकार नहीं देती तो मैं खुद लगाता हूँ power plant. And the same happened in services also. When Infosys was set up, they set up almost a large university in Mysore, where they trained their own software engineers because our engineering institutes could not skill them for what was required, right? So I think that when it comes to labor, we need a lot of skilling. Yes, there were ITIs set up in India, and now this government has talked about skilling labor in a big way. But it's very, very important that land, labor, and local bureaucracy. I think the central bureaucracy has become very sensitive, very open, very business friendly. But when I still talk to some of my friends in manufacturing, they complained about local bureaucracy and harassment, right? And again, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be bearish. I'm just saying that if we indeed want to be globally competitive, we need to solve the hard problems. It's great to say that the world is an opportunity for us, we have a great domestic market, but believe you me, all these entrepreneurs who have built, they have had to do much more than pure manufacturing, right? They've had to manage the environment, they've had to manage the local bureaucracy, they have to set up power plants, get permissions, and we are getting there. But I think that's a hard problem that we need to tackle some of these hard problems, right? Raamdeo ji made a very good observation on culture. When I look at from an investment perspective and I see, is manufacturing sexy? I mean, there are very few business groups in India which have the passion and the culture for quality and manufacturing, right? For example, the Sundaram or the TVS group in South, the Ranes of the world, the Munjals of the world, the Bharat Fords of the world, right? But they are few and far between. Like how many companies, Sundaram Fasteners is a classic example where all 17 companies are Deming Award winning. Each of their plants have won a Deming Award. But why? Because they have that culture, they have the passion that every product that comes out of my factory has to be of the highest quality. Like how the Japanese and the Koreans, they're completely mad when it comes to quality, right? So I think that culture has to be there. And I think that, what I see is that when I talk to a lot of our industrialist friends and I say the next generation, in many cases, not in all cases to be fair, but in many cases, they don't want to get into manufacturing. They want to set up a family office, they want to go into finance, they want to do something in technology, they want to do in social media, they don't want the hassle of handling labor, they don't want to handle shop floor problems, they don't want to get on, roll up your sleeves and solve the hard problems, right? So how, for example, in banks, in financial services, in IT services, in technology, you hear that people give ESOPs. How many manufacturing companies are willing to give ESOPs to the to the factory manager, to the supervisor, right? I mean, Infosys democratized wealth making by giving ESOPs to everybody down the line. But do we hear that in manufacturing? We don't. There are very few examples where, or I see very few resolutions being passed in manufacturing companies where they say कि नहीं हम ESOP देंगे. सर्विसेज में, रिटेलिंग में, टेक्नोलॉजी में सबको ESOP देना है, लेकिन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में you have to make manufacturing in enticing enough for the next generation to have that passion and culture to manufacture. I think there are 5 enablers that required, and I think India has all the 5 enablers to become a big manufacturer. You need a large domestic market. India has it. You need infrastructure, ports, railway lines, logistics parks. I think we are getting there. This government is very serious about building last mile infrastructure. We are doing the dedicated freight corridor. We are doing all the right things. We need the right policy framework. We have now competitive tax rates. We have PLI schemes. This government is also now one very important reason why many of the Southeast Asian countries became successful is because they had free trade agreements with the big buyers. India is now getting there. We are signing free trade agreements with a lot of the consuming countries. We did it with UAE, we did it with Australia, we are doing it with UK. Fourth, we need manpower. I spoke about that. Fifth, we need resources. And Raamdeo ji spoke about that. I mean, we have abundant resources. We have bauxite, we have iron ore, we have cotton. So we can be fully integrated. If you are fully integrated, you can be cost competitive, right? So I think that we need a combination of solving the hard problems that manufacturers still face of infrastructure, local bureaucracy, land, labor, and we need scale. Look at why India, and I think India is in a unique opportunity. Look at the two-wheeler manufacturers in India. Bajaj Auto sells more than 50% of its production it exports to more than 80 countries. Why? Because India was such a large market that they got scale. Because they got scale, they were competitive. Because we were competitive, they could sell to the world. The same thing happened with Maruti and Hyundai, right? Because Indians couldn't afford big cars. We were buying small cars, but we had scale. Because we had scale, India started exporting small cars to the world. And I think Jiten bhai made a very right point that we lost out on low cost, high volume exports. But I think where India has the edge as manufacturing 4.0 becomes a reality, where you need, beyond manufacturing, you need design skills, you need engineering skills, right? India is very good at that because we can then use our capabilities in design, software, engineering, where we can then add value and do high value exports, right? Today, our Prime Minister is talking about having indigenous technology for 5G and 6G, right? And we want to export to the world because now people don't trust buying Chinese telecom equipment. And India has an opportunity to export, Chinese, Indian made equipment. So I think in a world where software and automation and engineering and design becomes an integral part of manufacturing, I think India has a very, very strong role to play. I don't think China is going away in a hurry. I think the scale that they have built in low cost and large volume manufacturing will remain. So we should not be in some la la land. Yes, a lot of rewiring of global supply chains is happening, and China plus one and Europe plus one is definitely happening. I think, for example, in pharmaceuticals, agrochemicals, specialty chemicals, India has a great advantage. Why? Because I don't think Vietnam can do it. I don't think Bangladesh can compete with us in textiles, but they can't compete with us in pharmaceuticals or specialty chemicals. They don't have the chemistry skills. They don't have the engineering skills to set up a complex 8 process chemistry plant. They don't have the skill sets. India has that skill sets. So we need to identify. Secondly, if you look at every emerging or developing country which has become developed, they have at least had 2 sectors where that country was globally competitive. Japan did it in electronics and automotive. Korea copied the same model. Taiwan has done it in high-tech semiconductor and electronic manufacturing. China did it in high volume, low value manufacturing. India has done it in pharmaceuticals, in autos, auto components, specialty chemicals, agrochemicals, and pharma. So I think while we have PLI across 14, 15, 16 sectors, but there has to be a strategic mindset. We have to decide these 4, 5 areas we want to build scale and competitive advantage. You cannot be good at everything. So you decide and then you incentivize the entrepreneurs and give them everything that they want. And then you will see how Indians are able to really outshine. And I'll give you one example. Raamdeo mentioned about Bangladesh. You know what happened during COVID? The first set of people who were given a vaccine in Bangladesh were the textile workers. That was the level of strategic thinking. They didn't give it to the average guy first. Why? Because they said this is so critical. We are, we can't let our customers suffer, and we will first vaccinate our textile customers. That is the level of strategic thinking that Bangladesh did. So I think we need strategic thinking. We need to solve hard problems. We need to improve, incentivize, and improve the culture. You need to make manufacturing sexy for the next generation. That's when we will be at the cutting edge of manufacturing. But I have no doubt that we will get there.
Great, great. You rightly said it's all about mindset. If you have the right culture, right mindset, obviously you want to see this shaping up very well. So Jiten ji, मैं आपके पास में आता हूँ. So my next question is you talked about India is the 5th largest economy, and now we are moving towards becoming the 3rd largest economy. So what do you think? What can go wrong on our way to become 3rd largest economy, maybe 5, 7, 8 years down the line?
So, Vikas, I believe very firmly that India is going to be a $10 trillion economy. Firstly, the numbers that we are all putting out, which make us the 5th largest, does not capture the unaccounted or the underground economy in India. So if you put those numbers together, I would like to believe that we are already 4th largest, not 5th largest. Very importantly, I think, we have really restructured our economy. We have taken some very hard decisions. The economy has gone through a pain in the first term of Modi ji. There are lots of structural changes like introduction of GST and RERA, which had actually slowed down the economy, demonetization, etc. And when we were ready to take off, I think you saw things like COVID hit us very badly for 2 years. Thereafter, there was the war in Ukraine, etc. Now, if you take a look at the last 9 years, that despite of all these challenges, most of our companies have actually done well. If I look at the background, now if you have a cleaner environment, the internal challenges today don't exist, which means that I think you have everything that's ready for us internally. But what is disrupting us today is probably the global supply chains have broken down. You have deglobalized, volatility is at its height, and there is a slowdown in the Western world. And I think geopolitically also there are huge disturbances. The world was never so divided. You have China and US, the two largest economies in the world. They are at loggerheads. So I think this is all not going to end very soon. And like my colleagues mentioned, today the tailwinds are in our favor. I believe that Indian entrepreneurs will get their way out, because if you look at the last couple of years, they have achieved all of that despite what the environment was and despite what the government was. So I think in the next couple of years, when you have everything laid out so well, inflation is lower than the West. Interest rates now, I've never seen this in so many years, where probably decades and decades, where our rate of our RBI rate is 6.5 and the Fed is at 5. The differential is only 1.5%. So I don't think that we have seen such things happening in the past. If you ask me, I think there is no way but for capital to flow into India. And one big thing is you are forgetting that in the last couple of years, large business groups have got deleveraged. Tata's, Reliance, look at the Birlas, each of these business groups, Mahindra's, they were highly leveraged at the start of this decade. And if you see today, all of them are leveraged. All of them have sort of lightened the balance sheets, and today they're all ready for a large round of capex. Each of these business groups have burned their fingers. I don't think that whatever Bharti invested 12, 13 years ago or 15 years ago in Africa, they are able to recover their investments today. I don't think Tata's are recovering their investments in Chorus. Bajaj shut down Indonesian unit. Bharat Forge sold so many of them, shut down all the units in the West. Every company has had a disastrous experience by investing globally. So nobody wants to come back and try their luck by going overseas. So naturally, and they all push to invest in India. The other thing is that the Indian macros have also improved. You cannot have this sort of growth or manufacturing, etc., at very high rates of interest. The wrong kind of borrowers in the market have been also cleaned out by the government in the cleaning out of the banking system and getting the willful defaulters out, getting the all the economic offenders out of the system. So you have ensured that structurally interest rates are low. You have structurally looked at inflation to be under control. And while the rest of the world is fighting food inflation, we are not even talking about it because our godowns are overflowing with grains. We must give a lot of credit to the green revolution that took place in the 70s in India. So I think many things are structurally falling in place. And I believe that our entrepreneurs are amazing. They will always find a way. I must also say that we were associated with Infosys at the start, and we have seen their struggle also when it was not even $100 million company, but they found their way. So I think Indian entrepreneurs are very amazing. They will find their way. Money will now come back to India. Reliance has committed at least $150 billion till the end of this decade. Tata's have talked about $90 billion. We are looking at Birla's putting $30 billion. Adani's will put in about $100 billion. So please understand all this money, what can happen to manufacturing, employment, asset creation in the country. This is all going to be very robust. Now I just rewind and I'm asking you that in 2006, if Tata's had put 15-17 billion dollars in steel making capacity in India, what would the balance sheet look like today? It would have been amazing. They would be far ahead of JSW. They took dollarized loans. They lost out in devaluation. There was no labor productivity. When what they assumed at 14-15 million tons is today barely 9-10 million tons manufacturing. They have not been able to recover their capital. Their money has become half after 15 to 17 years. So, you can imagine what blunders were committed at that time. That sort of money, if it put in manufacturing in India. So I think everybody has learned their lesson. And geopolitical issues are here to stay. Deglobalization is absolutely here to stay. Breakdown of supply chains is here to stay, because there is no there's no consensus for any of these large economies to sort of function properly. So in my view, when you have a situation like that where there's no choice, you will have all the big investments coming all into India, backed by the Indian entrepreneurs, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's infrastructure. And the last 8-9 years, Modi ji has made that happen. 5 years in a row, your tax rates are 25%. If you have set up a new industrial undertaking, your tax is 17-18%. Now, all of this is, giving great confidence. And you have to also see it's coincided with deleveraging of balance sheets. I think everybody is waiting for 2024. As Modi ji comes back and, he leads our nation, the confidence level will go up dramatically. And in my view, not only will foreigners come in, that's going to be very secondary, but I think every Indian entrepreneur will put huge
Yes.
sums of money to work in India. They will not be looking outside of India for any investment. Last 15 years, they wiped out their entire capital. Whoever has gone overseas, Bajaj has wound up their Indonesian unit, Mahindras have walked out of Sangyong. What have we achieved? We have achieved nothing. And actually, there was nothing that so exciting in terms of technology absorption or whatever we did. So, what kind of capital was committed? Balance sheets were leveraged, and what sort of return you made? So, I think it has set back India by at least 1 to 2 decades. Now, when you see these balance sheets are light, look at what Tata is expanding in India. Now, look at what Reliance is looking. They're looking to, build the mega cities all over again. They're looking at green hydrogen. They're looking at all these. I think this is going to be unique. And also, India's energy insecurity is completely behind us. I don't see India being so dependent, on global fuel that can, completely derail our economy. So you have to remind yourself that, today software exports have far crossed our crude oil
Oil import.
imports. So, this has not happened earlier. So I think everything is falling in place for us. And like, there is Sundaram as one group, like Hiren said, is believing in excellence. I'm saying India will produce hundreds of Sundarams in this next coming decade, because you will find that the opportunity that exists in India is immense. We ourselves are talking as a government to go from, currently $3 to $4 trillion to $32 trillion. Assume we even achieve half of that. There is a huge, long and strong runway, and we will see each and every person benefiting immensely, because the market is captive. And while rest of those economies like China, etc., they're depending on the overseas markets, where we believe that we are at the start of a cycle of structural decline and recession. And the same time, also, we are not seeing anything great happening in the Western world. So technology is available. It's there for the asking. Capital is available. I think the kind of money that people have put globally to work, I think the results have been very dismal. And what has happened actually in America also in the last decade has just been the tech sector that created value. Manufacturing has gone down, all the traditional businesses are down, and every nation needs to be rebuilt. And I think India is taking a lead at that. So, what Modi ji will do in his third term, and probably we all pray and wish and hope that there's a fourth term, I think is structural reforms. And that is something very difficult to reverse. And we will see huge benefits coming out of it all across. So, I think we are in a nation that's in a hurry. We are young. We want to build out. Our entrepreneurs have just woken up. And I agree with Raamdeo ji that there are many, many difficulties. But I think, anybody who's doing business in India over the last few decades has only faced difficulties. It's not been a smooth run, even for an Infosys or even for a Wipro or anybody. Some difficulty or the other exists, which we have never been a smooth run. So I think, our people have learned to live with the challenges. They have emerged even stronger with these challenges. And the next 5 or 10 years, we'll see rapid investments coming in. And I think there'll be huge partnerships and technology transfers. We are not going to manufacture caps and jeans and toys. We're talking about manufacturing aircrafts, mobile phones, setting up a foundry. So we're looking at big investments coming, which will be game changers for India. We are no more talking about, I would say, trailing some of these developed countries. We're trying to talk and reach at par with what they have achieved. And I think we have the capability. I don't see any reason why that will not happen. In the last 5 years, If anybody would have told me that the tax rates are going to remain stable at 25% for 5 years, I would have not believed that person. But that has happened. And we have laid out a very, very strong red carpet for anybody, welcoming them, saying that India is a land where we have demonstrated over the last 1 decade social, economic, and political stability. That's what foreigners want. You want confidence of, the government, confidence from the people that my capital is safe. And I think, we have had incidences in the previous government, like the Enrons of the world, etc., which have not gone down well. Foreign capital, at least FDI, comes in very slowly, but that's a sign of great confidence. And I think from 2024 onwards, we will be seeing heightened investments both from overseas and domestic, something that we haven't been able to visualize. You will see creation of 40 more airports. You will see lots and lots of things happening. It's the start of a super cycle, and I think nobody can stop it. And Indian entrepreneurs I've spoken to so many of them. Everybody from a Pidilite who's had a bad experience by putting their money in US, Brazil, etc. All these small companies to the large ones like Tata's and Bharti and all of them, they all burnt their fingers heavily. They've actually gone behind by 10, 15 years. You can imagine Bharti, they put $10 billion 15 years back. If that money in 2008 was invested in domestic, what would their companies be today? The entire leverage that is there today in the balance sheets is all because of past mistakes. So not a cent is going outside of India. They have no choice but to invest. Economy is very robust, and the outlook is so favorable that I see you will see 5 or 10x growth in fixed asset formation by the end of this decade. So I am a firm believer that there is no choice. It's the tailwinds are with you, and there is no choice. I don't see any entrepreneur going outside and putting one red cent. Tatas have burnt their fingers in the hotel industry globally, hospitality, everywhere. People have put money. They have never seen one red cent recovery. You show me one global investment that has done well in the last 10 to 15 years. Anything made by any large industrial house, they only burnt their fingers. So nobody is in a mood. I've spoken to so many of them. I've spoken at chairman level to that. They said nothing doing. We're only going to commit our capital to India. So that's a massive sign. I'm saying it's a very bullish sign. And they're all waiting for 24 to happen so that they start, expanding in a very big way. And I see that will be the turning point for India after 24. We wouldn't have, you've just set the base, you have strengthened the foundation, you have put the building blocks in place, but the takeoff for India will be in FY24 and onwards. And believe me, we will see $10 trillion happening faster than we can imagine.
Great, Jiten sir. It's great to learn a lot of things from you, the way you analyze these conglomerates, the kind of mistakes they've made, and what if they would have not made, the question which is asked by you, where would have been today, and what contribution it would have made to the economy. My last question to Raamdeo ji, and then I'll come to Hiren after that. रामदेव जी, आपसे क्वेश्चन है कि पिछले दशक में या उसके पहले में आप देखते हैं ऐसा कोई मेजर न्यूज आपको सुनने को नहीं मिलता है? कैपेक्स लेने के लिए गवर्नमेंट को बोलते हैं तो गवर्नमेंट बोलता है प्राइवेट सेक्टर लेगा, प्राइवेट को बोलते हैं तो गवर्नमेंट लेगा, और बैंक से बात करें तो कोई बड़ा लोन देने के लिए तैयार नहीं है, एंड इसकी वजह से मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में कुछ हो नहीं पा रहा है. सो व्हाट्स योर टेक ऑन दैट? डू यू थिंक दिस ट्रेंड विल चेंज, or you see that there will be some major shift?
The trend will change, but I was talking to I think it was L&T or something. So they said, the guys who came for large capex on the stories of India doing well, India shining, India's story has always been great for last 50 years. So now it might look even better. So India had always been land of promise. So what happened was in 2008-9, a lot of power plants, a lot of steel plants, they all came up. And then what happened? There were 2G design, and out of turn allotment of collieries, iron ore mines, everything was taken away. And what happened was the loans remained in their books. So all the banks also suffered, and all the entrepreneurs, they're all bankrupt, or they got decimated in terms of their balance sheet and P&L, and all kinds of restructuring and everything happened. So it was a lost decade for them. And now some of them are completely out of business. So now Indian corporate, they are deleveraged. They are not going outside India, but they are very cautious in putting up new capacities. They are saying, show me the demand, then I'll put it up. Earlier, there was a promise of demand and they'll put it up the huge capacity. So that is not going to happen now. Earlier, capacity building happened front ended. Now, capacity building will happen back ended. So let the demand come up. I think Indian entrepreneurs, given opportunity, they will, like, if you want, instead of 3 million cars, you want 5 million cars, वो घुमा फिरा के आपको बना के दे देंगे वो. Like they will deliver. I'm telling you. The issue is that is there a demand, and now because of they have burned their hands once, they are not willing to. They are not coming up now, and that's where the government should not lose patience. They must keep it on, keep the pedal on. Maybe 6 months, maybe 1 year, as the markets starts building up, and the profitability of the existing capacity goes up. Clearly, there will be new capacities coming in. So that I don't have any doubts that now the banks and all, they have also burned their hands. See, all the PSU banks, they really lent a lot of money, and we can keep finding flaw with them that they've given disproportionate amount of money, but they backed the India story. And then what happened was, what really happened, and even PSU banks had a lost decade because of all those bulk loans. So now everybody wants to build a consumer bank. The banks which were industrial loan banks, they have become a consumer loan bank. So there is nobody who is willing to look at 5,000, 20,000, 40,000 crore. You want to put up a steel plant of 25 million tons, you need almost a lakh crore. And even if you have say 50-50 or 67, you need 60, 70,000 crores of underwriting of loans. So from where it is going to come? I mean, no bank is willing to look at this kind of sizes. Though balance sheet of the banks are largest right now. They are very large, seriously large. With the consolidation, they become even larger. But the appetite to underwrite industrial loans is very low. So I think that part also has to be seen by the government, how exactly they make it happen. But that's what I see, that government is determined to make it happen. So these obstacles which will come on the way, but government can do nothing about the demand. If the demand is not there for steel, you cannot expect them to put up more capacity, because then they'll be stuck with that. Second, what happens is, you as an entrepreneur, when you are an entrepreneur, Indian entrepreneurs, when in China, when they are in trouble, government is fully there, because that's the part of the China Inc. kind of policy. In India, you have to fend for yourself. When there is success, everybody will come. Stock market will take you to the sky high. When there is a failure, the failure in the business is taken as an integrity issue. कि चोर है, वो फेल हुआ है लेकिन उसको बोलते चोर है. See, failing in business is done, but you can't call the failing as a chore. And even the regulators treat it like that. See, if the guy has failed to repay his loans, he's what is that? It is non-bankable entity and willful defaulter and whole lot of things. With that, he's completely chopped off. So what happens is, the guy who is not like people like us who are solvent, we don't want to get into that category. So who the hell is going to take the risk? And what happens is, another thing what I observe is that I went to US and I was visiting a company, Indian company in US. So I said, do you have any, he has a unit in India and he has a unit in US. So he said, what is your experience? So he says, in US, you need to bring your capital and entrepreneurship. Rest all will be taken care of by system. There is no obstacle at all. You do manufacturing, you do logistics, whatever. There is no hassle at all. Everybody comes to help you. In India, the moment you are in manufacturing, you have to take care of the local bosses. They will just visit. It's not that they are asking for blackmailing or anything like that, but you have to take care of them. You have to have a cup of tea, you have to generally massage their egos or whatever. But that is very difficult. It is not a skill, it's a level skill. A lot of people don't have that skill. Like, I may not be very good at it. How do I do it? So, entrepreneurship is one thing, but managing people is yet another. And they are the powerful guys. They can just stop. They'll say that, okay, I'll not give you permit. Go whatever you want. So, but then the small things, they have their own obstacles, and the scalability, freewheeling, expansion of the capacities, manufacturing for domestic market as well as for, it's not only about, see, we are talking about manufacturing. It can be for domestic market as well as for global markets. But the leverage today to cater to the global market is a lot more than only for domestic market incrementally. So my sense is that I think one of today morning the news came that iPhone export has grown by 440%. Last year they did 1.1 billion. This year they have done 5 billion. And of the 5 billion, I remember bulk of it has happened in last 4 months. I think in March alone, the run rate would be more like a 1.3, 1.4 billion. So the next year, the same number, if the run rate is maintained, my sense it could be 10 or 15 billion dollars. One single entity, in just 2 years' time. So that's the power of when the government comes with PIL, they give the land, they make all the amendments to the labor laws, state. I think center-state relationship. When the center wants something, Modi ji can work only at the center. But beyond that, when the center-state relationship comes, in Karnataka, if by chance there is a opposition government, I mean, the economics should be way above the politics. When you come together, the forces that this double engine concept is massive, you know. So I think it is important that these are national objectives and the center state political relationship should not come on the way of scaling up, because in any case it's a physical stuff. Manufacturing is physical, services are digital or invisible kind of thing. So there you have to only handle people. Here you have to handle all sorts of logistics, and that requires at least there should not be political obstacle. The objective of the state government, objective of the central government, that should all come together, and that is where also we suffer. Those are things which have this thing. So I don't have any doubts it is going to happen, and we have to have patience. And as Jitu said, that after 24, there will be further commitment of another 5 years of continuation of the policy. This is another thing. When you have the majority government and policies continue, because ultimately the rules of the game. If the rules of the game is changing every 2-3 years or at the whims and fancy of the coalition government, it is very tough. Somebody says that, okay, boss, I'll shut my manufacturing and let me import from China. That is much better. And he gets a policy change in favor of imports. आपको खत्म हो गया पूरा इंडस्ट्री. उसका फायदा हो गया, लेकिन बाकी पूरा इंडस्ट्री चौपट हो गया. So I think there are a lot of these issues which has, but the opportunity is large, and some of the industries we have even on low cost and mass manufacturing, we have potential. Entrepreneurs, I'm telling you, entrepreneurs are greedy for the not only profit but for the market cap now. New thing is the market cap. You make a success, demonstrate of 1 lakh, 2 lakh crore market cap. The guys who are sleeping, they will also come and do it. I'm telling you. I know रिलायंस पावर का मार्केट 1400 रुपए का लिस्टिंग हुआ, कितना लिस्टिंग हुआ, उसको देख के कितने सारे पावर कंपनी बन गए. दैट ऑल ऑफ अस वी नो. द गाइस दे नेवर न्यू व्हाट इज अ पावर कंपनी. They started the power company by listing their captive power. They thought that it is the same valuation what Reliance Power got. So I think we have wonderful capital markets, and आप मैन्युफैक्चरिंग का मार्केट क्या बढ़ाओ, मतलब ऐसा करो कि people love it, and then you see the fun. And why the Bharti Telecom happened? Because Bharti Telecom became the top 2-3 market cap company. I mean, the market cap was 2.5 lakh crores in 2005-6. I was one of the investors. So because of that, the 2Gs came up. Because of success of Bharti market cap, not the company. It is market cap, greed of market cap of the in the system. Everybody wants to be number 1, number 2, number 3, and that is the biggest magnet. I'm telling you. Government should see to it.
That's right.
They should grant the profit, create the damn P&L, and make like PLI is nothing but building a P&L only. So that's the right style. Once they get the P&L, once they get the multiple, once they get the growth, I think market cap will happen, and 2 or 3 companies more than 1 lakh crore market cap, and then government has to do nothing. They have to just watch the game.
Great, sir. Great insights. I know Raamdeo ji will have to leave now in 10 minutes. So my last question, because he has some other commitments. So my last question to Hiren ji, I'm coming to you. So this Indian story is well known to most of the FIIs in India, and they had more than 25% holdings exposure. I'm talking about in particularly going down. Not that they are not aware of this developments. Number one. And number two, we see while FIIs monies are going out, FPIs, but then FDIs, direct investments are coming in. So how do you see these two things going ahead? That's the last question, and we'll conclude the session post that. Over to you.
I think we should not stress too much about FII buying or selling. Yes, we require, I mean, they are all welcome. All capital is welcome in this country. But I think what you said was most important. FDI coming in is a much better indicator of confidence in India than FI. See, FII money has many other considerations, right? They have many other options to invest in. India is not the only country that they want to invest in, right? It also depends on global macro, and there is no one kind of FII. There are, we think of FII as one monolithic person sitting somewhere outside deciding whether to invest in India or not. I mean, today there are macro funds, there is ETF money. Now, when interest rates go up, people want to, get out of emerging markets and put money in. So there are many considerations when it comes to FII money. I think what is more important is FDI, and there the direction is very clear that every single year we've been getting higher and higher FDI. And as Rakesh ji, my erstwhile partner, used to say कि लड़की सुंदर है तो सब आएंगे, तो FII भी आएगा, जो 18% हो गया है वो वापस 24% भी हो सकता है. ऐसा कुछ लिखा नहीं है कि they will not come back, right? I think what happened last year, and is that India outperformed, and China is a very large emerging market, and China massively underperformed. And a lot of the global money is benchmarked, right? So to MSCI and stuff like that, right? So automatically India's weight went up and China's weight went down dramatically. And many of these large institutions can't run, can't be away from the benchmarks very significantly. And hence, they had to sell in India just to bring down their weight. And that was one of the technical reasons. I'm not saying that's the only reason, but that was one of the important technical reasons why FIs have been selling, right? But my sense is that there is this feeling that people always have that India is an expensive market, but it's like comparing apples and oranges. The amount of high cash flow, high ROCE, high ROE businesses that we have in our index makes our and the index itself has a survivor bias, right? So it throws out companies that are not efficient and takes in companies that are creating value. And therefore, that should not be taken as in its absolute sense that India is expensive. Yes, markets do go through valuation swings, but I would not stress too much about FIs coming or not coming. I think we have to be very grateful to the mutual fund industry in India in the way they've marketed themselves, where today, in a very systematically, there is constant flow of money that is coming into the equity markets, and that is a bigger source of risk capital than just foreign capital. That is a more stable source of capital. And this has been possible because inflation in India has now come down structurally, which means that people's wanting to put money in hard assets to hedge themselves against inflation, that need has come down dramatically. And people have realized that you can actually build wealth by investing in the equity market. So I think while FI money is important, and I also believe that it will come back, I wouldn't stress too much about their weights going down from 24 to 18%. The India story is strong and it will come back. I think what the government needs to work on is to keep attracting FDI, and FDI will come, because a few years ago, when you asked CEOs of the Fortune 500 companies, they were asked, "What's your China strategy?" Today, they've been asked, "What is your India strategy?" Right? And that will mean that more and more FDI will come in this country. and that is a far more important source of capital than FI. Though FI is also important, it will also come.
Sure. Great, sir. So with that, we'd like to conclude the session here. And I take this opportunity to thank all of you for taking the time out from your busy schedule, joining the session and educating our investor community. So thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Vikas.
Vikas.